Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship moved slowly through space near the edge of Federation territory. Jake had been commanding exploration vessels for 12 years, but the sight of deep space still amazed him. Today felt different, though. Something was wrong, but he could not put his finger on what it was. "Captain," called his communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, "we are getting a priority message from Nexus Prime Station. Ambassador Carter wants to speak with you right away." Jake nodded and walked to his command chair. The screen changed to show Ambassador Lisa Carter sitting in her office on the diplomatic station. Lisa looked tired and worried, which was unusual for her. She was normally calm and confident during their talks. "Jake, we need to talk privately," Lisa said. "Can you come to Nexus Prime? I have some information that the Federation Council needs to hear, but I want to run it by you first." "Of course. We can be there in 6 hours," Jake replied. "Is everything okay?" Lisa looked around her office before answering. "I am not sure. Just get here as fast as you can." The screen went dark and Jake turned to his crew. "Set course for Nexus Prime, maximum speed." Something has Lisa worried, and that worries me. 6 hours later, Jake walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime. The station served as a meeting place for all Federation species. Humans, Altarians, Zentarians, and dozens of other alien races worked together in the massive complex. Jake had always liked the station because it showed how different species could live in peace. He found Lisa in her private office, talking quietly with an Altarian officer Jake did not recognize. The Altarian was tall and thin, with blue skin and large black eyes. His military uniform showed he held a high rank. "Jake, meet Commander Vexstar," Lisa said. "He brought me some very old information that I think you should hear." Commander Vexstar stood and bowed slightly. "Captain Morrison, I have heard good things about human exploration crews. You have a reputation for being thorough and careful." "Thank you, Commander." Lisa said, "You have information for us?" Vexstar opened a datapad and placed it on the table. 3 days ago, my research team was studying ancient records on my homeworld. We found something that has not been seen for thousands of years. Records of a species called the Devourers. Jake sat down and looked at the datapad. The screen showed strange symbols and pictures that looked very old. I have never heard of them. Are they still around? We thought they were just stories. Vexstar continued. Legend says they come from the empty space between galaxies. They eat entire civilizations, consuming everything alive on whole planets. The records say they return every few million years to harvest advanced species. Lisa leaned forward. "Show him the warning, Vexstar." The Altarian touched the datapad, and new symbols appeared on the screen. This is written in the old trade language that was used millions of years ago. It says, "When the Star Eaters return, do not wake the sleeping giants of Sol. Their rage burns hotter than dying suns." Jake stared at the symbols. "Sol is our sun. This warning is about humans?" "That is what we think," Vexstar said. "But we do not understand why. Humans are one of the newer species in the Federation. You have been peaceful since joining us 300 years ago. Why would ancient records mention your people?" Before Jake could answer, his communicator beeped. "Captain, this is Lieutenant Foster. We are receiving emergency signals from the Vega sector. Multiple ships are requesting immediate assistance." Jake stood up quickly. "We need to go." Vexstar, "Can you send me copies of these records?" "Of course." "But Captain, there is more. The records say the Devourers can only be stopped by species that refuse to give up even when facing certain death. Most civilizations surrender or run when they realize they cannot win. But the records suggest humans are different." Jake left Nexus Prime with more questions than answers. As the USS Defiance traveled toward the Vega sector, he thought about the ancient warning. Why would records from millions of years ago mention humans? What made his species different from all the others in the galaxy? Meanwhile, on the planet Kepler 442b, Dr. Alex Harper was having her own strange discoveries. She led a team of scientists studying ruins that were older than any known civilization. For 3 months, they had been carefully digging through layers of ancient stone and metal. "Dr. Harper, you need to see this," called her assistant. Dr. Kevin Mills. He was kneeling next to a large stone tablet covered in symbols. Alex hurried over and examined the tablet. The symbols were similar to the ones found on other worlds, but these were much clearer. "Kevin, this is amazing. These symbols are telling a story." "What kind of story?" Alex traced the symbols with her finger. "It talks about a great war fought long ago. Some kind of enemy came from outside the galaxy and started destroying everything. But then defenders appeared and fought them off." "Defenders? What species?" "That is the strange part. The symbols keep pointing to a small yellow star." Alex pulled out her star charts and compared them to the symbols. "Kevin, I think they are pointing to our solar system." "To Earth." Kevin looked confused. "But that is impossible. Humans only achieved space travel a few hundred years ago. These ruins are millions of years old." "I know it does not make sense, but look at this." Alex showed him another section of the tablet. These symbols described the defenders as having a special trait. They call it adaptive persistence. The ability to keep fighting and learning even when the situation seems hopeless. "That does sound like humans," Kevin admitted. "Remember the stories from Earth's history? How human armies would keep fighting even when they were outnumbered and outgunned?" Alex nodded. "And not just armies. Human explorers, scientists, and inventors have always refused to accept that something was impossible. When other species would give up, humans would try a different approach." As they continued studying the tablet, Alex found more disturbing information. The symbols described the enemy as star-eaters who consumed entire worlds. They came from the dark spaces between galaxies and appeared every few million years to harvest advanced civilizations. "Kevin, I think these devourers are real. And according to this, they are supposed to return soon." On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Jake Morrison was learning the same thing in a much more direct way. The USS Defiance had reached the Vega sector and found something that changed everything. Space around the Vega system was filled with strange ships unlike anything in Federation records. The vessels were massive, dark, and seemed to be made of both metal and living tissue. They moved through space like hunting animals surrounding planets and space stations. "Captain, we are detecting energy patterns unlike anything in our databases," reported his science officer, Lieutenant Commander Gary Thompson. "These ships are using some kind of technology to strip matter from the planet's surface." Jake watched in horror as one of the strange ships approached a Federation colony world. Within minutes, the planet's surface began to change color. Plants, animals, and even the colonists themselves seemed to dissolve and flow toward the alien vessel. "They are eating the planet," Jake whispered. "Everything alive is being consumed." The USS Defiance was too far away to help, but Jake could see Federation ships trying to fight the invaders. Energy weapons and missiles had no effect on the strange vessels. The alien ships simply absorbed the attacks and continued their horrible work. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from Federation Command," Amy Foster reported. "Admiral Bradley wants to speak with you immediately." The screen showed Admiral Tom Bradley, the head of Earth's Defense Forces. He looked grim but determined. "Jake, you need to return to Earth immediately. We are calling back all human vessels and crews. Admiral, there are people dying out here. These ships are destroying entire worlds." "I know, son. But we have received some very old warnings that suggest humanity has a role to play in stopping these creatures. We need to prepare for something that our species has not faced for millions of years." Jake looked back at the dying planet in the Vega system. The Federation's most advanced ships were being destroyed like toys. Whatever was coming, humanity would need to be ready. As the USS Defiance turned toward Earth, Jake thought about the ancient warning, "Do not wake the sleeping giants of soul." Perhaps it was time for humanity to wake up and remember what they really were. The USS Defiance arrived at Earth 3 days later, but Captain Jake Morrison barely recognized his homeworld. The peaceful blue planet he remembered was now surrounded by massive defense platforms and weapons that had never been there before. Ships from every human colony were gathering in Earth's orbit, creating the largest fleet Jake had ever seen. "Captain, we are being directed to Docking Bay 7 on Luna Station," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster. "Admiral Bradley wants to see you immediately." Jake nodded and prepared to leave his ship. As the shuttle carried him to the lunar base, he could see the true scale of humanity's preparations. The moon's surface was covered with new installations that looked like weapons platforms. Whatever was happening, Earth's military had been planning for it. Admiral Tom Bradley met Jake at the docking bay. The older man looked tired, but determined. "Jake, thank you for coming so quickly. We have a lot to discuss and very little time." They walked through corridors filled with human officers Jake did not recognize. "Admiral, where did all these people come from? I thought I knew most of the senior staff." "These officers have been working on classified projects for the past 50 years, Bradley explained. "Projects that we hoped we would never need to use. But the Devourers have returned and it is time to wake up." They entered a large briefing room where dozens of human commanders were studying star charts and battle plans. At the center of the room was a holographic display showing their galaxy. Red dots marked worlds that had gone silent in the past week. "The Devourers started their attack in the Rigel system," Bradley continued. 12 inhabited worlds, completely consumed in less than 48 hours. "The Federation's best fleets could not even slow them down." Jake studied the display. The red dots were spreading across the galaxy like a plague. "How many people have we lost?" "Billions. The Zentarian Empire fell yesterday. The lithoids, who have existed since the galaxy was young, were destroyed this morning. Every species that has tried to fight them has been defeated. What about evacuation? Can we save the civilians?" Bradley shook his head. "The Devourers are too fast. They can consume an entire planet in hours. By the time we get evacuation ships to assist them, everyone is already dead." Jake felt sick. He had seen the destruction at Vega, but the scale was much worse than he had imagined. "What can we do? Our weapons are not any better than the Federation's." "That is where you are wrong," Bradley said with a slight smile. "Show him the files, Colonel." A woman in a military uniform Jake did not recognize stepped forward. "Captain Morrison, I am Colonel Sarah Davis. I command the Titan Defense Project. We have been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. She handed Jake a data pad. "When humanity first joined the Federation, we were told that war between species was a thing of the past, but our leaders remembered Earth's history. They knew that peace never lasts forever." Jake looked at the data pad and could not believe what he was reading. "These are weapon specifications for systems I have never heard of. Rail guns the size of buildings, energy weapons that could destroy moons, and something called quantum torpedoes. We have been building these systems in secret," Colonel Davis explained. "Hidden in asteroid mines, disguised as research stations, buried under the surfaces of remote worlds. The Federation thinks we are peaceful explorers, but we have been preparing for war. But why keep it secret from our own people? Why did not I know about this?" Admiral Bradley sat down heavily. "Because we hoped we would never need them. The ancient warnings talked about humanity's role in stopping the Devourers, but we did not want to believe it. We wanted to be just another peaceful species in the galaxy." Jake thought about what he had seen at Vega. The other species gave up when they realized they could not win. But humans would not do that, would we? "No, we would not," Bradley agreed. "And that is what makes us different. When other species face impossible odds, they surrender or run. But humans get angry. We get stubborn. We start looking for ways to win." Meanwhile, on Kepler 442b, Dr. Alex Harper was making discoveries that supported everything the military was learning. Her team had found more tablets that told the story of the last time the Devourers had come to the galaxy. "Dr. Harper, you need to see this," called her assistant. Dr. Kevin Mills. He was standing next to a new section of ruins they had uncovered. "These symbols are different from the others. They look more recent." Alex hurried over and examined the new tablets. The symbols were clearer and more detailed than the ancient ones. Kevin, these are not millions of years old. These might be only a few 100,000 years old. What do they say? Alex translated the symbols carefully. They talk about the last time the Devourers came. A species from the Sol system fought them and won. But it was not just a victory. They hunted the Devourers across the galaxy and destroyed them completely. The Sol system? You mean humans? Not exactly. The symbols suggest it was an earlier version of humanity. Maybe humans who achieved space travel long before our current civilization. Alex studied the tablets more closely. But Kevin, look at this. It says they did not just fight the Devourers. They followed them back to their home and destroyed their creators. Kevin looked shocked. Their creators, the Devourers, are not the real enemy? According to this, they are just tools. Weapons created by an even more powerful species to harvest the galaxy every few million years. But the ancient humans found their masters and killed them all. Alex felt a chill as she read the final symbols. The tablets say that when the creators died, they programmed the remaining Devourers to continue their work. These creatures attacking us now are just following their last orders. Back on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison was learning about humanity's preparations from a very different perspective. Admiral Bradley had taken him to a secret facility deep under the lunar surface where human scientists were working on technologies that seemed impossible. Captain, meet Dr. Linda Ross, Bradley said, introducing Jake to a woman in a lab coat. She leads our exotic weapons research program. Dr. Ross smiled and gestured to the equipment around them. Captain, what do you know about quantum mechanics and exotic matter? Just the basics. Enough to understand how our ship engines work. Well, it turns out that humans have an unusual talent for understanding these concepts. Other species need years of study to grasp ideas that human children can understand intuitively. She led them to a device that looked like a massive cannon. This is a quantum disruptor. It can tear apart matter at the atomic level. We built it using theories that Federation scientists said were impossible. Jake stared at the weapon. How long have you been working on this? 50 years. We started when the first ancient warnings were discovered. The government decided that if humanity was supposed to fight the Devourers, we needed weapons that could actually hurt them. They moved to another section of the lab where engineers were working on ship designs Jake had never seen before. The vessels looked more like weapons than exploration ships. These are our new battle cruisers, Dr. Ross explained. They are equipped with weapons that can penetrate Devourer defenses. But more importantly, they are designed to be operated by human crews. What do you mean? Other species design their ships to be as safe and comfortable as possible. But humans are different. We designed these ships to be as effective as possible, even if they are dangerous to operate. Human crews can handle stress and danger that would break other species. Jake was starting to understand. You are saying that humans are better suited for war than other species. Not just war, Captain. Humans are better suited for fighting impossible battles. When other species would give up, humans find a way to keep fighting. As if to prove her point, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Admiral Bradley received a communication on his personal device and his face went pale. The Devourers have reached the inner colonies, he announced. New Montana, New Texas, and 3 other human settlements are under attack. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. What are our orders, Admiral? Bradley looked at the assembled officers. We launch the first human battle fleet in 3 centuries. It is time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. But as they prepared to leave, they received reports from the attacked colonies that changed everything. The human settlers on New Montana had not tried to evacuate when the Devourers arrived. Instead, they had fought back with mining equipment and farming tools. Sir, reported a communications officer, the colonists are requesting military support, but they are not asking for evacuation. They want weapons so they can fight more effectively. Jake smiled grimly. That sounds like humans. Even when facing certain death, they want to fight back. Admiral Bradley nodded. And that, gentlemen, is why the ancient warnings specifically mentioned our species. We are not just another member of the Federation. We are the galaxy's immune system, and it is time to do our job. As the human fleet prepared to launch, Jake thought about the ancient tablets Dr. Harper had found. The previous humans had not just defeated the Devourers. They had hunted them down and destroyed their creators. Perhaps it was time for humanity to finish what their ancestors had started. The galaxy was about to learn why the universe had warned against provoking humanity. The captured Devourer ship sat in the secret research facility on Europa, Jupiter's moon. Dr. Alex Harper stood before the massive alien vessel, studying its strange biomechanical structure. The ship looked like it was part machine and part living creature, with surfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse with their own life. Dr. Harper, we have finished translating the communications we pulled from their systems, reported Dr. Kevin Mills, her research assistant. You are not going to believe what we found? Alex looked up from her scanner readings. What did you discover? Kevin handed her a data pad with the translated messages. The Devourers are not conquerors, Alex. They are gardeners. Gardeners? What do you mean? According to these messages, they return to the galaxy every few million years to harvest species that have become too advanced. They prevent any civilization from reaching a level of development that might threaten their creators. Alex felt a chill run down her spine. Their creators? The Devourers work for someone else? They did. But here is the strange part. The messages keep referring to their creators in the past tense, as if they are all dead. Alex studied the translations more carefully. Kevin, look at this. The Devourers are following programming that was given to them millions of years ago. They are not making decisions anymore. They're just following their last orders. But who are their creators? And what happened to them? Alex pulled up star charts on her computer and compared them to the Devourer data. The messages mention a species from the Sol system, a species that tracked the Devourers back to their home and destroyed their masters completely. Kevin stared at the data. Ancient humans? But that means our ancestors were not just defenders. They were hunters. Not just hunters. They were the ones who ended the cycle. The Devourers we are fighting now are the last remnants of that war, operating on ancient programming without any guidance. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Captain Jake Morrison was learning the same truth in a very different way. The USS Defiance had joined the human fleet defending Centris Prime, the capital world of the Federation. The battle was unlike anything. In recorded history, millions of Devourer ships surrounded the planet, their biomechanical forms blotting out the stars. The Federation's remaining fleets fought desperately, but they were outnumbered by thousands to one. Every tactical analysis showed that the defense was hopeless. But the human crews were not behaving like the situation was hopeless. In fact, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. Captain, the Devourers are moving to attack formation, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from her communications station. All Federation ships are requesting permission to retreat. Jake looked at the tactical display. The enemy fleet was massive beyond comprehension. Any sane military commander would order an immediate withdrawal, but Jake found himself smiling. Deny the retreat request. All ships are to maintain their positions and prepare for battle. Sir, the odds are impossible. We cannot win this fight. Amy, you are thinking like a Federation officer. Think like a human. We are not trying to win a battle. We are trying to start a hunt. Ambassador Lisa Carter, now serving as the Chief Tactical Coordinator for the human fleet, was having a similar conversation with her bewildered Federation allies. The alien commanders could not understand why the humans were not retreating. Ambassador Carter, your ships are heavily outnumbered, said Admiral Cuthbert, the Altarian fleet commander. Even with your advanced weapons, you cannot defeat so many enemies. Lisa smiled and pulled up a display showing human battle doctrine. Admiral, you are thinking about this wrong. Other species fight battles to win or lose. Humans fight battles to learn. Learn? Learn what? How to hunt. Every engagement teaches us more about devourer tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns. We are not trying to win this battle. We are gathering information for the real war. Admiral Keffer looked confused. What real war? The one where we hunt down every last devourer in the galaxy and destroy them completely, just like our ancestors did millions of years ago. The first wave of devourer ships reached the human defense line, and the Federation officers watched in amazement as the human crews responded. Instead of fear or despair, the humans showed something that seemed impossible under the circumstances. Excitement. Lieutenant Commander Susan Blake, tactical officer aboard the flagship USS Retribution, coordinated the human response with cold efficiency. Her crew worked with mechanical precision, but their eyes burned with something that unsettled even experienced Federation officers. Target the lead biomechanical construct, Susan ordered. Fire quantum torpedoes, full spread. The weapons struck the devourer ship and tore through its defenses like they were made of paper. The alien vessel exploded in a burst of organic matter and twisted metal. The human crew cheered, but it was not the cheer of desperate soldiers. It was the cheer of hunters who had just brought down their prey. "Excellent shot, Commander," came Admiral Bradley's voice over the communications system. "All ships implement hunting pattern Delta. We are going to teach these creatures what happens when you threaten human space." The battle that followed became legendary throughout the galaxy. The devourer ships, which had easily destroyed every other species they encountered, found themselves facing an enemy that fought like no other. The humans ignored losses, refused to retreat, and continued attacking even when their ships were heavily damaged. Most importantly, they began to adapt. After each engagement, the human ships changed their tactics, learning from their mistakes and exploiting every weakness they discovered. The devourers, operating on ancient programming, could not adapt to this new threat. "Captain, we are receiving damage reports from across the fleet," reported Amy Foster. "We have lost 30% of our ships, but the crews are requesting permission to continue the attack." Jake studied the tactical display. The human fleet was being destroyed, but they were taking a terrible toll on the devourer forces. More importantly, they were learning exactly how to fight these creatures. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Begin implementing Protocol Omega. It is time to show the galaxy what humans do to species that threaten innocent life." Protocol Omega was humanity's ultimate military doctrine developed in secret over the past 3 centuries. It was not a battle plan or a defensive strategy. It was a hunting manual designed to track down and eliminate every member of a hostile species. Regardless of cost, the human ships began to spread out across the battlefield, no longer fighting as a unified fleet. Instead, they became individual hunters, each ship tracking and destroying devourer vessels with methodical precision. The aliens found themselves facing something they had never encountered: a species that treated war as a form of hunting. Commander Lisa Carter watched the battle from the command center on Centris Prime. The alien officials around her were terrified by the scale of the fighting, but Lisa felt something different. She felt pride. "Ambassador, your species is destroying itself to save us," said Chancellor Vorth, the Federation's highest official. "Why would you sacrifice so much for other species?" Lisa looked at the display showing human ships fighting desperately against impossible odds. "Chancellor, you still do not understand. We are not sacrificing ourselves. We are doing what humans have always done when faced with a threat to innocent life." "What is that?" "We are hunting. And humans are very good at hunting." The turning point came when the human ships began to coordinate their attacks in a pattern that the devourers could not predict. Instead of fighting like a military force, they fought like a pack of predators, surrounding and isolating their prey before moving in for the kill. Captain Morrison's ship, the USS Defiance, led a group of human vessels in a direct assault on the largest devourer construct. The biomechanical ship was the size of a small moon, but the human crews showed no fear as they attacked. "All ships, concentrate fire on the central structure," Jake ordered. "We are going to take down their command ship." The battle lasted for Hours, with human ships continuing to attack even as they were systematically destroyed. But gradually the massive Devourer ship began to show damage. Its biomechanical systems started to fail and its weapons became less effective. "Captain, the enemy vessel is losing power," reported Lieutenant Commander Gary Thompson. "Their central systems are shutting down," Jake smiled grimly. "Good, all remaining ships, continue the attack. We are going to teach the universe that humans do not give up, no matter how impossible the odds." The massive Devourer ship finally fell silent, its biomechanical systems completely destroyed. Across the galaxy, other Devourer ships began to slow down and lose coordination. The human attack had done more than destroy one vessel. It had disrupted the entire Devourer network. As the battle ended, the surviving Federation officials looked at the human crews with a mixture of fear and respect. The humans had fought like nothing they had ever seen, ignoring impossible odds and continuing to attack even when their cause seemed hopeless. But for the humans, the battle was just the beginning. They had learned how to hurt the Devourers, how to disrupt their systems, and most importantly, how to hunt them. Now it was time to implement the real plan, the complete extermination of every Devourer in the galaxy. 6 months after the battle at Centris Prime, the galaxy looked very different. Human ships moved through every star system, hunting down the remaining Devourer forces with methodical precision. What had started as a desperate defense had become the largest hunting operation in galactic history. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, now equipped with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. His ship was part of a vast network of human vessels that covered the entire galaxy. Every day, they found and destroyed more Devourer ships that were still following their ancient programming. "Captain, we have located another group of Devourer vessels in the Andromeda approach corridor," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster. "Long-range sensors show at least 50 biomechanical ships." Jake nodded and studied the tactical display. "How far are they from inhabited systems?" "About 3 light years from the Zarian colonies. The aliens there have already been evacuated." "Good. Signal the fleet. We are moving to intercept." "It is time to finish this." The USS Defiance and 12 other human ships moved toward the Devourer fleet. Jake thought about how much had changed since the war began. The humans were no longer fighting to survive. They were fighting to make sure this threat could never return. Colonel Danny Rivers coordinated the attack from his command ship, the USS Vengeance. The human fleet had developed new tactics that turned every engagement into a precise hunting operation. They no longer tried to fight fair battles. They surrounded their prey and destroyed it completely. "All ships implement hunting pattern Omega," Danny ordered. "No Devourer vessel is to escape this system." The human ships spread out in a formation that would have seemed impossible to any traditional military. They moved like a pack of wolves, surrounding the Devourer fleet from all directions. The biomechanical ships tried to escape, but the humans had learned to predict their movements. Lieutenant Commander Susan Blake watched the tactical display from her position aboard the USS Retribution. Her crew had been hunting Devourers for months, and they had become very good at it. Too good, some might say. "Target their command vessel first," Susan ordered. "Cut off their coordination, then destroy the rest." The human weapons struck with devastating effect. Quantum torpedoes and particle beam arrays tore through Devourer defenses like they were made of tissue paper. The alien ships tried to fight back, but their weapons could not penetrate the new human shield technology. Within 2 hours, the entire Devourer fleet was destroyed, not damaged or disabled, but completely eliminated. The humans had learned that leaving even one Devourer ship intact was too dangerous. They had to be thorough. "All enemy vessels destroyed, Colonel," reported Susan. "No survivors detected. Excellent work. Mark this system as cleared and move to the next target." Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Alex Harper was completing her research into humanity's ancient past. Her team had finally decoded the last of the ancient tablets, and the truth they revealed was both amazing and terrifying. "Dr. Harper, the final translation is ready. said Dr. Kevin Mills, handing her a datapad. "You need to read this." Alex studied the ancient symbols that had been translated into modern language. "Kevin, this changes everything we thought we knew about human history. What does it say?" The ancient humans did not just defeat the Devourers. They became the Galactic Guardians. For millions of years, they protected other species from threats like this. They were the immune system of the galaxy. Kevin looked shocked. "But what happened to them? Where did they go?" Alex pointed to a specific section of the tablet. "They evolved. They transcended physical form and became something else. But before they left, they created a backup plan. They made sure that if the Devourers ever returned, there would be humans ready to stop them." "You mean us? We are the backup plan?" "More than that. We carry their genetic memory, their instincts, their refusal to give up when protecting innocent life. That is why the ancient warnings specifically mention soul, not because humans are naturally violent, but because we are naturally protective." The implications were staggering. Modern humanity had inherited not just the ability to fight the Devourers, but the responsibility to protect the galaxy from all existential threats. They were not just another species among many. They were the Guardians. Ambassador Lisa Carter received this information while coordinating the final phase of the Devourer hunt from the Federation capital. The remaining alien leaders listened in amazement as she explained humanity's true nature. "Ambassador, are you saying that humans have been protecting the galaxy all along?" asked Chancellor Vorth. "Not protecting, preparing. Our ancestors knew the Devourers would return eventually. Every human colony, every exploration mission, every peaceful trade agreement was part of a larger plan to position humanity throughout the galaxy. But why keep it secret? Why not tell the other species?" Lisa smiled sadly. "Because we hoped it would never be necessary. Humans genuinely wanted to live in peace with other species. But we also knew that if a threat like the Devourers appeared, we would need to be ready." The final phase of the war began 3 weeks later when human scouts discovered the largest Devourer fleet ever seen. Thousands of biomechanical ships were gathered in the empty space between galaxies, apparently waiting for new orders that would never come. Captain Morrison led the assault force that would end the war forever. The USS Defiance was now part of a human fleet that numbered in the thousands. Ships that had been hidden throughout the galaxy for centuries emerged from secret bases and joined the hunt. "This is it," Jake announced to his crew as they approached the massive Devourer fleet, "the last of them. After today, no species will ever again face the threat of galactic extinction." The battle that followed was unlike anything in the history of the galaxy. Human ships attacked with a fury that shocked even their own allies, but it was not mindless violence. It was the calculated anger of a species that had been bred to protect others. Commander Susan Blake coordinated the attack patterns from her ship. "All vessels, remember your training. These creatures consumed billions of innocent people. They destroyed entire civilizations. Show them what happens when you threaten life in our galaxy." The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship playing its part in a larger hunting strategy. The Devourers tried to fight back, but they were facing something they had never encountered before, a species that had been designed specifically to destroy them. Colonel Rivers watched the battle from his command ship and felt a deep satisfaction. "All ships implement total extermination protocol. No Devourer is to survive this engagement." The battle lasted for days. Human ships continued to attack even when they were heavily damaged. Crews fought on even when their vessels were dying. Around them, it was not courage or duty that drove them. It was something deeper. It was the genetic memory of their role as Galactic Guardians. When the last Devourer ship finally fell silent, a strange quiet settled over the galaxy. For the first time in millions of years, the threat was completely gone. Not just defeated, but eliminated entirely. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge and looked out at the debris field that had once been the Devourer fleet. "Amy, send a message to Earth. The hunt is over. The galaxy is safe." In the months that followed, the other species began to understand what humanity really was. The pleasant, cooperative humans they had known were real, but they were only one side of human nature. The other side was something far more dangerous: the universe's immune system, activated only when innocent life faced extinction. Dr. Harper's final research report was distributed throughout the rebuilt Federation. It contained a simple truth that explained everything about humanity's role in the galaxy. Humans are not just another species, the report concluded. They are the guardians that the ancient civilizations created to protect all life. When the galaxy is at peace, they explore and build and create. But when extinction threatens, they become something else entirely. They become hunters of the impossible, breakers of the eternal, and the defenders of all life. The ancient warnings were updated with new information for future generations. The children of Terra sleep lightly and their dreams are of peace. But should the galaxy face annihilation, they will wake as they always have, as the hunters who refuse to let evil triumph, no matter how impossible the odds may seem. Ambassador Carter addressed the Galactic Council one final time before the humans returned to their peaceful exploration missions. The universe warned you never to provoke humanity, she said. Not because we are cruel or violent, but because we are the one species that will never stop fighting for what is right. We hope you never see that side of us again. But if another threat like the Devourers appears, remember that humanity will always be watching, always be ready, and always be willing to pay any price to protect innocent life. The galaxy had learned why the ancient warnings existed. Humanity was not just another member of the galactic community. They were its guardians, its immune system, and its last line of defense against the darkness between the stars. And they would never stop watching the void, ready to hunt down any threat that dared to threaten the peace they had died to protect. 5 years had passed since the last Devourer ship was destroyed. The galaxy had returned to peace, but it was a different kind of peace than before. Every species now knew the truth about humanity's role as galactic guardians, and that knowledge had changed everything. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of the rebuilt Nexus Prime station. The diplomatic hub looked the same as before the war, but the atmosphere was completely different. Alien species that had once treated humans as equals now showed a mixture of respect and fear whenever they encountered human personnel. "Captain Morrison, thank you for coming," said Ambassador Lisa Carter as she met him at the entrance to the main conference hall. "The Galactic Council has some important matters to discuss with you." Jake nodded and followed her into the hall. The council chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, but all eyes were on the small group of human delegates. It had been this way since the war ended. Humanity's true nature was no longer a secret. "Ambassador Carter, we have received disturbing reports from the Outer Rim territories," announced Chancellor Vorth, the Federation's leader. "A species called the Kethmori has been attacking trade ships and demanding tribute from civilian colonies." Lisa studied the information on her datapad. "How many ships have they destroyed?" 17 cargo vessels and 3 passenger liners. Over 2,000 civilians have been killed. Jake felt a familiar anger building in his chest. It was the same feeling he had experienced during the Devourer War, but much more controlled now. "What do you want us to do about it?" The council chamber fell silent. Every alien representative knew what they were asking, but none of them wanted to say it directly. Finally, Chancellor Vorth spoke. "We request that humanity deal with this threat." "You mean you want us to hunt them down and destroy them?" Jake said bluntly. "We want you to stop them from killing innocent people." Jake looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. "And if we refuse, what if we decide that this is not our problem?" The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone in the chamber knew that humanity could not be forced to act. They were too powerful, too advanced, and too dangerous to threaten. But they also knew that humans had never refused to protect innocent life. "You won't refuse," said Admiral Kethver of the Altarian. "Fleet Commander, because that is not who humans are. You cannot ignore suffering when you have the power to stop it." Jake smiled grimly. "You are right. But I want everyone in this chamber to understand something. When we deal with the Kethmori, we will not be acting as Federation peacekeepers. We will be acting as humanity has always acted when innocents are threatened. What does that mean? Asked a representative from the Zarian colonies. It means we will hunt them down and destroy them completely. Every ship, every base, every leader who authorized attacks on civilians. We will not stop until the threat is eliminated. The alien representatives looked uncomfortable, but none of them objected. They had seen what humanity could do when truly motivated. The Devourers had been completely eliminated, not just defeated. The Kethmori would face the same fate. Dr. Alex Harper received the news about the Kethmori while working in her laboratory on Earth. Her research into humanity's ancient past had made her one of the most important scientists in the galaxy. Governments and universities from dozens of species sought her expertise on archaeological matters. Dr. Harper, we have a priority message from the Defense Ministry, said her assistant, Dr. Kevin Mills. They want your opinion on the Kethmori situation. Alex looked up from her work on ancient human artifacts. What kind of opinion? They want to know if the Kethmori represent an existential threat to galactic civilization. Alex considered the question carefully. Kevin, bring up the files on the Kethmori species. Let me see what we are dealing with. The data showed that the Kethmori were a relatively new species that had achieved space travel only 2 centuries ago. They were aggressive and territorial, but they were not trying to destroy all life in the galaxy. They were just bullies who preyed on weaker species. This is not an existential threat, Alex concluded. Kethmori are dangerous, but they are not trying to end civilization. They are just criminals on a large scale. So humanity should not get involved? Alex shook her head. I did not say that. Humanity's role is not just to fight existential threats. We are the guardians of innocent life. If the Kethmori are killing civilians, then they have made themselves our problem. Meanwhile, in the Deep Space Monitoring Station at the edge of the solar system, Colonel Danny Rivers was already preparing for action. The station looked like a simple research facility, but it was actually the command center for humanity's Guardian network. Colonel, we have confirmed 17 attacks by Kethmori vessels, reported Lieutenant Commander Susan Blake. They appear to be operating from a base in the Rigel sector. Danny studied the tactical reports. What is the size of their fleet? Approximately 200 ships, mostly converted cargo vessels with military weapons. They have one main base and several smaller outposts. And the Federation response? The Federation security force sent a diplomatic message asking them to stop. The Kethmori responded by attacking another passenger liner. Danny nodded. It was the same pattern they had seen before. When faced with real threats, the Federation tried diplomacy first. But diplomacy did not work with species that only understood force. Susan, activate the Guardian protocols. It is time to remind the galaxy that humanity is watching. The Guardian protocols were humanity's response to threats that were not large enough to require the full military, but too dangerous to ignore. Small fleets of human ships would be dispatched to eliminate the threat quickly and quietly. No negotiations, no warnings, no second chances. Captain Morrison received his orders while the USS Defiance was conducting routine patrols near the Centauri system. The message was simple and direct. Eliminate Kethmori threat. Complete extermination authorized. Jake called his senior officers to the bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new mission. The Kethmori have been attacking civilian ships. We are going to stop them. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked at the mission briefing. Captain, the orders say complete extermination. Are we going to destroy their entire species? No, Amy, we are going to destroy everyone who participated in attacks on civilians. The Kethmori who stayed home and minded their own business will be left alone. But anyone who decided to become a pirate will not survive the next few weeks. The human response was swift and merciless. 3 small fleets of human ships moved toward Kethmori territory, traveling through hyperspace with technologies that other species still did not fully understand. The Kethmori had no idea they were being hunted until it was too late. The first attack came at their main base in the Rigel sector. The Kethmori defenders detected the approaching human ships and prepared for battle. They had destroyed Federation vessels before, so they were confident they could handle a few human ships. They were wrong. The human ships moved with the precision of predators. They did not try to fight a fair battle. They surrounded the Kethmori base and destroyed it completely. Every ship, every weapons platform, every leader who had authorized attacks on civilians was eliminated. The surviving Kethmori tried to surrender, but the humans were not interested in surrender. They had learned from the Devourer War that some threats could only be stopped through complete elimination. Within 2 weeks, every Kethmori vessel that had participated in piracy was destroyed. The human ships hunted them down across dozens of star systems, showing the same methodical precision they had used against the Devourers. The Kethmori government, realizing what was happening, tried to negotiate. They sent desperate messages to the Federation, begging for help. But the Federation could not protect them from humanity's guardian response. Ambassador Carter received the Kethmori surrender offer while attending a Federation meeting. The alien leader was begging for mercy, promising to stop all attacks on civilian ships. Ambassador, please ask your people to stop hunting us, pleaded the Kethmori representative. We will never attack civilians again. We will pay compensation to the families of those we killed. Lisa looked at the alien with cold eyes. You should have thought of that before you started killing innocent people. Humanity does not negotiate with species that prey on civilians. But we are surrendering. We will do anything you ask. The time for surrender was before you murdered your first victim. Now you will face the consequences of your actions. The Kethmori pirate threat was eliminated completely within 3 weeks. Not a single vessel that had participated in attacks on civilians survived. The human ships returned to their normal duties as if nothing had happened. The galaxy watched in silence as the reports came in. The Kethmori had been a minor threat compared to the Devourers, but humanity's response had been just as thorough. The message was clear: humanity would not tolerate any species that preyed on innocent life. Chancellor Vorth addressed the Galactic Council after the operation was complete. The Kethmori threat has been eliminated. Trade routes are now safe, and civilian ships can travel without fear. At what cost? Asked a representative from the Zarian colonies. Humanity destroyed an entire pirate fleet. They showed no mercy.